So we're just going to watch your video through.
This here is the one and only Amber Manley on Beats Walking. Not sure, but I think we got just maybe a little bit close on the second.
Okay. I'm going to do some zooming, and I'm going to alter. I'm going to go ahead and punch pause, and then I'm going to push it slowly so that I can kind of see what's going on here. Okay, so let's just start out at the very beginning and start tearing you to pieces. I'm so sorry. Not really. Sorry, not sorry. I hate saying sorry, not sorry, but I just did it. Felt like it was appropriate. So right here, as you turn around, I can see a tightness. You're already responding with your body to the unknown, as though everything you're about to do was not your idea. Sorry, my horse just snorted. Or that you're very nervous and unsure of how to execute what you're about to do. Right here, you have some looseness in the reins. You're encouraging the horse to move forward, but you can see your upper body is tight, and then you get flung backwards as the horse goes, okay, you want me to go? And you're like, well, I wanted you to, but I didn't know what to do to get ready. So the horse's mouth, as you can see, suffers. We're right there and right here, and then especially right here. The horse is getting punished for doing his job because you have got absolutely zero stability. Zero. I told you I was going to be harsh. So let's just go ahead and zoom in right here. Our leg is just kind of like dangling as though it weren't really a part of our body. It was like this lumbering structure that we have to take with us, whether we like to or not. It's carry-on luggage that's too big to fit. Our leg is not being supportive. Our back is kind of hollowed as your shoulders try to get over the support of your foot. So think about being on a horse and being a stable, effective, balanced rider as though the horse weren't there and you were standing on the ground. Sorry. So if you were standing on the ground and you put your feet out in front of you, you would fall backwards. So this is your body's response to saying, I don't want to fall backwards. If that cantle weren't there, you would go shooting over the back of your horse's butt. So here we go. The horse is like, do you want me to go? And you're like, yeah, but I don't know what to do. Oh shit, it's happening. Sorry, mouth. Okay, so let me zoom in some more. So right here, we're going to start kind of bouncing in the saddle and on the reins. Now we're actually falling off, but thank God for the horn. And your head actually looked at the wall, and then it finally was like, oh, look where I'm going. But everything just kind of took you. And there we punished the horse's mouth again for our inability to stay balanced and use our body. Again, if it weren't for that cantle, which is actually catapulting you forward. And you can see where your feet go. Your feet keep going up towards the shoulder, whereas your shoulders are way back and your butt is even further back, and you're constantly trying to get over your feet. So what do we do when we try to get over our feet? It is much better, unless you can get rid of your saddle horn and your pommel and stand over the horse's neck, in this case about 1/4 of the way up his neck, unless you can get your hips over his neck, it is best, rather than to struggle trying to put your body over your feet, put your feet down underneath your body. That is what you would do if you were standing on the ground. You would put your feet under your body. So here we're just kind of being taken for a ride. Our legs are going to grip as opposed to be stable, which is going to push our toe down. It's kind of hard to see because it's a little dark. And then we're just kind of slung as the horse does its job and we don't do ours. You see right here, your foot actually goes into a really good position. It goes there, it's not being placed there and used, however. But just kind of remember where this foot is. If you drew a line from your shoulder to about the middle of your foot or the heel, this is the opportunity for you to restabilize yourself and use your legs to almost stand without being stood rigid. Think of more like a basketball player when he's in front of the dude that's got the ball and he's bent at the knees, his feet are wide, and he's kind of moving from side to side, ready to use either leg. That would be a much better position. You're in that position right now, but you're not using the position. You're kind of like accidentally there. So what happens is, whoa, we get slung, and we're getting slung. And you're trying really hard not to punish your horse's mouth by putting your hand forward. Good girl. And see how we're just kind of popping up and down? We're bouncing up and down. You actually bounce to the right and don't fall off miraculously. And now we're still bouncing. We're just kind of getting like taken for a ride. Remember, it was your idea to put this horse in the trailer and take it to this barrel race, so you better show up for that horse because it's dang sure showing up for you. And then here we're just pulling on reins, trying to put things together and keep from falling off. All right, so let's talk about what we can do to fix all of this. When you're coming down this alley, I want you to adopt what is called the driving seat. And the driving seat is going to be, you know what, let's just go ahead and talk about stirrup. Or if you've had any instruction, I'm sure you've had instructors tell you heels down. I feel like it is the most misinterpreted, misinstructed instruction, heels down. Because when you hear heels down, what do? You push your heels down. What would be a better way to instruct a rider to have a support system beneath them is to rest their feet over the stirrups. Put your feet in the stirrups and then allow your leg to rest, and the heel will drop because there's not a stirrup underneath it. You understand what I mean? If you were standing on the ground and I said, put your heels down, you'd bring your toes up. That's what happens when an instructor says heels down. So instead of thinking heels down, I want you to think about putting your feet in the stirrups. And it doesn't necessarily have to be the ball. On some horses, I'm more comfortable putting a bit more foot, having a more full stirrup. And on some horses, I prefer a lighter touch. It just depends on the way those horses move. So think about allowing your ankle and your knee and your hip to be elastic, not relaxed because we're moving. We're not sitting in a chair. Be elastic, be flexible. Allow those parts of your body to move. Don't adopt a frame. So right here, I want you to bring your shoulders up. I don't want you to stiffen your back, but I want you to have your feet underneath your shoulders, which means that your hip angle is going to have to open in the front, and your knee is going to have to be more beneath you, and then the leg underneath your body as you drive your horse forward, because if your feet are forward and the horse takes off, where are you going? Backwards. If your feet are underneath you and your shoulders are brought slightly back, and when I say slightly back, I mean actually your shoulders are going to be over your horse in a nice line, but I tell people who are hollowing out in their back and timidly leaning forward to bring their shoulders back, and you're timidly leaning forward and then you're getting tossed back. So think of it like a ball. If I'm going to throw a ball, I have to put it in a position where I can spring it forward. So if the ball is already in the position where it will be released, then I can't throw it. It's easier to describe than I just made it. But anyway, so go ahead and put yourself over that horse's back and drive it out forward. So essentially, where you get slung backwards, that's where you need to be before you get slung backwards. So drive the horse with your feet underneath you in almost a deep full seat without even thinking about seat. You know what? That's something else. Let's go ahead and talk about that. You know what? I've had a lot of caramel macchiato this morning, so I'm chatty. Think less about seat as sitting as though you were in a chair. Think more about seat as position and strength. So you have like a half seat, a light seat, a full seat, or a driving seat. Actually, and there's many deviations to each one depending on a body type, length of leg, and length of torso. So right here, what I really want to see is a rider that is secure, using her legs as balance and driving the horse forward by bringing her body, her shoulders somewhat back so that the horse can drive out. Then you use your legs to adopt more of a lighter seat where you're kind of not standing up, but you're using your legs as flexible support. You're not going to be able to use your legs as flexible support if they're hanging out in front of you, flopping around. So right here, you get kind of thrown back. So bring your knee back. See how your knee is kind of jutting forward and it's kind of pinching? Drop your knee down and bring your heel underneath your shoulders. And keep in mind that all of these angles and positions should be fluid and easily changed stride for stride at any point. That's going to keep you from balancing on the face. So right here is where a lot of people are like, you know, my feet get behind me, I tump forward. How do I keep my feet forward? And it's like I've said before, if you want your feet more forward, you literally put them there. So the time that your feet are kind of okay to move somewhat forward of your body is when you are in preparation for the inertia of a horse decelerating. So essentially what you're doing is balancing yourself as the horse decelerates, which, as the horse decelerates, all you've got to keep yourself in the saddle is the friction and the balance that you can hold over your stirrups. And right here, I'm not, one of those people that's like, look up, look at your next barrel, because my God, we're not even into this barrel. And it's okay I would prefer you to look at the wall if you need to. But once you're getting into the turn, it's time to look where you're going. And if you'll look where you're going, it's going to allow your body to be more receptive and more responsive to the turn. We're still kind of looking out. I want you to look where your horse is looking. Now we get on target with our horse, which is great, with our head, which is wonderful. So also in the turn, this is a part where I'd really like to see you have even distribution over your stirrups. Try to avoid putting unnecessary, excessive weight in the outside stirrup or the inside stirrup during the turn, unless you are cueing your horse to manipulate the turn in a different manner than it is. This horse is trying to make a nice balanced turn. So that is when you want to be nice and balanced in the saddle. If the horse were going past the barrel and not really coming in, then you could get back and maybe put some weight in the inside stirrup for one step and then get centered again. But at this point, I'd rather see nice balance. Okay, right here, we grab the horse's face. It elevates. It looks like it needs a tie down, but I think what it really needs is for you to be a more stable and more accomplished work on yourself rider, because the horse is responding to the jerk in the face, not something wrong that the horse needs to tie down. And we discussed that, and you understand that. I told you this was going to be harsh. So this is a good spot where you need to put your butt needs to be somewhat light if necessary in order to get the weight in the stirrups and use the stirrups as balance. I do like the hand on the horn. That should be an aid and not a crutch. Right here, it's actually a crutch because you're not using your legs to balance yourself and to move forward. Like, for example, if you were going over a jump right now or coming out of the gates at a racetrack on a racehorse, you wouldn't make it. And the horse would probably falter because it's impeded. You don't want to impede the horse. You want to go with the horse. And how are we going to do that? We're going to have more balance over our stirrups. So here we get kind of catapulted. We're getting bounced. Again, your legs are just kind of flopping. They're just kind of there. You know, I don't know if you use rubber bands, but if you're using rubber bands to keep your feet in the stirrups, take them off and learn how to use your feet and learn how to, if you can keep a stirrup without rubber bands, you're much more likely to be using your stirrups appropriately. There are some excellent high class, high caliber riders and trainers who do use rubber bands when they run. The difference between them using rubber bands and someone who doesn't have good stirrup balance is that they put on rubber bands as a backup plan. They don't need the rubber bands. It is simply just in case. If you're using the rubber bands because your feet are going to come out of the stirrups, you need to work on yourself. If you're using the rubber bands, not because you customarily lose stirrups, but because it's like the slot race and you really don't want to lose one and you just like sort of a little added, insurance, then that's two very different things. I like how you put your hand forward and let this horse get in. And there you go, getting flung because we're not using our stirrups and we're not using our body and we're not going with the horse. We get slung out, we're pulling on our face, and that's actually, if you can see here, it throws her body to the right, which is when you almost fall off to the right, and it throws her body out of balance. She can't make a straight line with the death grip on her reins. She's trying to do her job because she knows how to do it, but she's being impeded and hindered. So her job is poorly executed. You know, it's kind of like we talked about driving a car with a passenger and you know where you're going and the passenger keeps on getting in the way, telling you how to get there. And now you are second guessing yourself. And then I never like to, some people might think, oh, I'm going to pull my horse up and slow it down, which is fine if you can do it with a nice, easy downward transition and really communicate to that horse you don't have to run out right now. But if you're flinging and clinging and yanking the horse's head, all that does is tell the horse you're doing everything wrong. Quit doing things the way that you used to do them this new way, which is, you know, run out sideways, popping leads, running crooked. So I want you to take all of my meanness, my comments, and I want you to just really self-reflect. And I hate to even send this to you because it sounds like I'm being really mean, but I really do want you to get better, and I want you to have a more secure, I hate to say seat because it makes people think, okay, put my butt in the saddle and keep it there no matter what. No, I want you to spend more time using your stirrups, lifting yourself out of the saddle without impeding your horse's face. This is not just muscle. Yeah, you're going to develop some really incredible badass muscles by using your legs more and putting your legs beneath you. But you're also going to create some really cool muscle memory to be more effective and more quickly effective. There's a big difference between reaction and response. And reaction is a panic move that is probably may not be the correct move because it's a panicked reaction. Response is responding and adjusting for the move with your educated, practiced ability. I think it was like the Navy SEALs or Marines, one of those big guys. They say that you do not rise to the occasion, you rise to the highest executable level of your experience and preparation. So just remember, if you can't, if you don't know how to do it, you're not gonna just find it just laying out in the arena somewhere halfway to the first barrel.